failure isn't success. I don't say failure is success. Failures are the bricks that pave the way to success. If you're going to start any business, you're going to start your own coaching business, or any entrepreneur start their business. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs start and fail at all sorts of different businesses before starting the business that becomes successful. Anybody who's amazing at anything, if you think of like comedians, they go on stage and bomb, right? And they try out new material and it doesn't go well. And they try out material and then it does go well. And they got to keep testing and trying and testing and trying it. They don't necessarily see it as failure. Maybe one night they totally bomb. They might see it as bombing. But they keep at it, right? The story doesn't end based on a failure, right? You turn the page and there's the new chapter, right? So you can have a failure. You can bomb. You could totally screw something up. I have done so many things in my business that didn't work out, right? I've tried launching new programs that totally fell flat. I almost quit in my business over and over again because I was struggling to get it off the ground. I've had coaching sessions with clients where maybe where at the end I was like, oh my gosh, this session this was not a great session for me. I could have coached so much better, right? And maybe even the client didn't feel like the coaching was great. I've made offers from stage that totally were crickets. Nobody bought anything in front of everybody. I'm like here I am, I'm an expert. Go check out this thing, and nobody's buying it from me. I'm like, oh my God, nobody's going to listen to me and think my advice is any good if people aren't buying, and I can't get anybody to buy. I've crashed and burned a billion times. I even cried on stage. I've cried 3 times in the 13 years that my wife and I have been together. One of them was when we broke up for like 2 days. And then the other 2 times were on stage because one of them I bombed so hard. And then the other time was because I was making changes to a program and people weren't happy about it, and I just felt like I was giving extra and making it better, but they were like, but you're changing it, and we didn't, and I just was like, I'm never going to make you happy, and I cried on stage, and then I realized one of the things I was teaching, which is I teach some great techniques for healing and overcoming a lot of this inner game stuff, because honestly, the only thing that makes business hard is the emotion of it, right? The actual... it's not, when you're growing your business, it's not like you're, shoveling concrete and breaking bricks and laying roofing tiles with tar in the middle of the summer at 100 degrees. I'm like, that's hard work, right? That work is hard work. Any other kind of business, it's not hard work from a physical standpoint. It's hard emotionally. And what makes it hard emotionally is because things push our buttons, right? We have expectations, our expectations are dashed. We have hopes, our hopes are dashed. We try our best and we fail. We try to please our customers and sometimes we fall flat on our face. And it can be tiring sometimes. But we can work through those things. That's one of the big things that's helped me achieve what I've achieved, because I work harder on my personal growth than I do on my business growth. Because anytime something pushes my buttons, I want to get to peace about it. I want to work through it. And so I have a great technique for healing called the peace process. I actually have 2 powerful healing techniques that I use on myself and on my clients. One is called the peace process. The other one's called the instant miracle technique. And those 2 techniques together have been able to help me resolve any issues that I've had, fears, doubts, limiting beliefs. It's the opposite of the way that we're biologically hardwired as human beings. We're biologically hardwired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And unfortunately, if you live your life always trying to avoid pain and seek pleasure, well, it can keep you alive, right? It's great for the health of our species. It keeps us, food tastes good, keep doing that, keep eating that. Fire burns, ouch, that's hot, avoid that, right? So that it's good for us in a lot of ways, but when we do the same thing emotionally, it keeps us stuck. Because when we feel something emotionally that, like, some fear comes up or some shame comes up or something, and we try to push it away, it doesn't go away. It then stays kind of in the background, keeping us from being at our best. In fact, One of the reasons why I almost quit my coaching business years ago was because I was falling behind on my mortgage. And I was so worried about losing my house. And I thought, like, why am I so worried about losing my house? I mean, obviously, I didn't want to lose my house, but I was like, what am I worried about, being homeless? I'm like, no, I think I could have friends and family. I could crash on their couch. I'm not going to if I lose my house, I'll have some place to live. Why am I so worried about losing my house? And it turned out that when I was a kid, we grew up on food stamps and welfare, and I had to wear hand-me-downs for my brothers who were over 10 years older than I was, or they're just under 10 years older than I was, but by the time the first brother, he wore it, then the second brother would wear it, and then it would be put up in storage, and then I would wear it almost a decade later. I was wearing clothes that were a decade out of style, and one day I went to school, and this kid, he was like one of the most popular kids in school. He started walking up to me, and I was like, oh, maybe he wants to be friends with me. And if he's friends with me, then everybody else will want to be friends with me. And like, oh my gosh, right? So he walks up to me, and he talks to me, and he starts talking to me about my jeans. He's like, nice pants. And I thought, oh, does he actually like my bell-bottom jeans that I'm wearing in the 80s when people aren't wearing bell-bottoms? And then he put the bottom of his foot, and he pushed it against the jeans, and he rang the bell on my bell-bottoms. He goes, ding dong. And then all the other kids laughed as we were all lining up around to go out to recess. And then I couldn't wait for the actual bell to ring, and everybody went out to recess, and I went into the bathroom, and I just was like, oh my God, I just didn't know what to do. And then a couple days later, this other kid in school, his name was Ron, and Ron got these brand new fruity-smelling markers, and everybody wanted to be his best friend if he would let them borrow his markers. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, the secret to success, or secret to be liked, people will like you if you have money and you have nice things. And if you don't have nice things, then people don't like you, they make fun of you and tease you. Well, now I know as an adult that kids will tease you for anything. They'll tease you for being poor, they'll tease you for being rich, they'll tease you for being tall, they'll tease you for being short, right? The kids, that's kind of what they do. They tease each other. But I didn't know that at the time, and so I made up in my mind, successful people, rich people are liked, poor people are not. All of these experiences made me feel all this shame, and I buried it. And now here I was as an adult, trying to grow my coaching business, falling behind on my mortgage, and I was so worried I was going to lose my house, not because I wouldn't have a place to live, but finally clicked in for me that the real reason I was afraid was because I didn't want to feel the shame of being poor. I didn't want people to think, oh, he's not successful because he lost his house. And I was like 25 years old, and I had this house, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I got this house. I'm all successful. Everybody look at me. I have my own house as a young guy. And now I'm going to not only lose the feeling of being this successful guy, people are going to think I'm this, a loser or something for losing my house. So, all of our fears are fears of feelings. We're not really afraid of the situation. I'm afraid to lose my house, but I wasn't afraid of the house being gone. I was afraid if I lost the house, I would feel all this shame. Or people might be afraid to lose their job. Well, maybe they're afraid to lose their job, not because of the job itself. Maybe part of them would be happy to lose that job because most people don't love their job. But they'd be afraid of all the pain of having to go down to interviews and update their resume and all this stuff, and maybe losing the income for a couple months or however long it takes. And you could be really good at your job, but not necessarily really good at interviewing, right? It's a whole other skill set that you need to get, and it's like that pain. So all of our fears are fears of feelings, and so mostly what we do is when we feel something uncomfortable, we push it away, we try to suppress it, we try to avoid it. But what we want to do is the opposite. If you want to heal it, you've got to be willing to feel it. So instead of trying to push down the things that are making us scared, with the peace process, how that works is that you invite the feeling to come back. You think about, oh my gosh, if I lost my house, what would that feel like? You find where that feeling is in your body. You tune into the feeling, and instead of trying to push it away or distract ourselves, this is what most of us, including myself sometimes, will distract ourselves with internet, with TV, with alcohol, with sugar, with food, right? We do with porn, sex, whatever, to try to distract ourselves and keep us from feeling those feelings. But what if instead you were just able to just be present to the feeling and let that feeling run its course? So the peace process works like this. You just Think of the thing that pushes your buttons. Maybe it's fear of getting started. Instead of trying to push it away, you could just be present to it. Feel, where is the feeling in your body? Is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Or if it's a fear of actually getting hired, right? Maybe you feel like you'd be a good coach, but wow, what if somebody hires you and they don't like your coaching? Or fear about talking about the money, or whatever all the fears are that we can have in our coaching business, that we're not good enough, that we're not smart enough, we're not tall enough, we're not, we don't have a nice enough suit, or whatever the heck. I mean, I remember I felt way too young when I got started. I bought a suit. It didn't fit well. I didn't know what made for nice looking suits, but I bought myself a suit. I got that suit on, and I tried to make myself look more professional. I grew a beard when I was 25, so I'd look older. And it's not all those things that are going to make us win over the clients. It's going to be our heart. It's going to be our confidence. And all the things on the outside that we try to get the confidence by wearing the nice clothes. I like wearing nice clothes now just because when I was a kid, I never got to wear nice clothes. Now I love buying nice clothes, and now I love that I can afford to easily, right? But it's not the stuff on the outside that's going to win over the client. It's who you are on the inside, right? You could say all the right things, but if inside you feel like, oh my God, I hope I'm scared. I hope they hire me, but maybe I'm scared if they do hire me. I don't know if I can actually, if you have all that stuff going on, you're going to be energetically pushing clients away. On the other hand, if you are confident on the inside, if you feel strong on the inside, if fears come up and you resolve them, if you feel them and let them run their course, and you get back to a place of peace and confidence, then you're going to be attracting clients, right? They're going to be like, I want what he has. I want what she has. People will sign up for coaching, a lot of it just be based on who you are and the energy you bring, right? And having the skills and the abilities and all that stuff to be able to coach people will still be really valuable and really important. But who you are is probably the most important thing. And getting yourself into that strong emotional state is critical. And the peace process is one of the best ways to do that. So how that works is you think of the thing that pushes your buttons, you find where it is in your body, and you just be present to it without trying to change it, without trying to analyze it, without trying to make it go away. You just put your attention on the most intense part, wherever that is, and you just let it be there. And you never know how long it's going to take to resolve, but 100% of the time it will. Most of the time in a matter of minutes. And I understand that it can feel uncomfortable to feel those feelings, even for a couple of minutes, but we're usually feeling some of those feelings somewhere anyway. We just kind of, on a low level, pushing them out until something comes up that pushes the button and makes it show up big, and then we're like, oh, get me some wine, get me some food, make this feeling go away. Instead, with the peace process, you just feel it, let it get as fully intense as it needs to get, and then just let it run its course, and eventually it'll resolve. Usually in a matter of minutes. I've had something take several hours, several sessions, over several hours, over several months, but those are very rare. Most everything resolves in a matter of minutes using the peace process.